Two possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe, or we are not. Both are equally terrifying. This is not a video about aliens. This is a video about us. About those of us who have been, those of us who are, and those of us who have yet to be. I bring up this quote because this is a video about the terror of potential, of a truth that we cannot process. That truth could be infinite, it could be harrowing, and yet despite that harrowing infinity being contained within each and every one of us, facing it will all but undo us. This is a video about the alien. This is a video about Orb on the movements of the Earth. And yes, there will be spoilers. There's this guideline in anime discourse called the 3-episode rule, which helps you figure out if a show is worth watching. The first episode sets up the world, the second explains the plot, and the third shows how the two collide. Orb is set in 15th century Poland, a time of inquisitors, religious zealotry, and the stifling of free thought. The plot follows the child prodigy Rafal, who, despite not having any real faith or even satisfaction in the system that exists, never bothers to consider anything beyond it. The story truly begins when he meets the heretical scholar Hubert, who opens his mind to the theory of heliocentrism. This is our story. This is how the world and the plot combine. It's a tale of scholarship and discovery in the face of adversity, of the non-believer finding belief, something to give his life for. Those words are not hollow. Heliocentrism was indeed best described as a faith to which Rafal would give his life for. Episode 3 is meant to send us on our way. It's meant to point us in the right direction. But Rafal takes his life honorably to avoid being tortured to death. He dies headstrong, just as Hubert did the episode prior. Hubert was Rafal's teacher, and Rafal was going to be ours. We were meant to see the world through his eyes. But with Rafal dead, our guide is lost. We, the audience, are lost. It's overwhelming to not know what comes next. It's terrifying to face that infinity. There's a term in aesthetics called the sublime. Aesthetics is the study of beauty. It prioritizes appreciation, determining the value of something according to its effects on the witness. Think of how a vast natural landscape will make you feel. The sublime falls under this. The word itself refers to the exalted, the revered, greatness beyond measure. When something is sublime, it's awe-inspiring, existentially overwhelming to the point where you feel small. The sublime was integral to Romanticism. Romanticism was the artistic and philosophical movement that opposed the cold reason of the Enlightenment. It was a direct response to the Industrial Revolution. The Romantics believed that such progress had stripped us of our connection to the world as it was. Romanticism and the sublime speak to the undeniable core of our being, emotion. Think of romance as you understand it. What does it mean to fall in love, if not to confront the terrifying infinity of the unknown? What is the church if not the bride of Christ? The sublime is the essence of Orb. It's seeing how vast and beautiful the world is. There was a fear of chaos brought on by Rafal's death, that our guiding light, the 3-episode rule, was completely null and void. However, those episodes did in fact probably set up the story, because Orb is not about a single protagonist. It's a chronological anthology about many people united by the sublime. The method of examination that we were using, the 3-episode rule, was wrong. The method of examination that the church used, geocentrism, was also wrong. But the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. The point at which reason fails does not indicate an absence of reason, but rather that our reason is too close-minded. Only through taking the plunge, through having faith in the chaos, will we ever understand it. Orb is not chaotic. The universe is not chaotic. Everything moves as it does. Everything is in its right place. The story has structure. It's just not one that you'd recognize using the traditional method of the 3-episode rule. The Enlightenment rejected faith, but faith and reason, despite seemingly being contradictory, are both integral to the human experience. When confronted with the unknown, one must have faith in order, even if we do not yet understand it. The sublime itself is an eternal idea. It's primal, and Orb identifies it through the Greek term thalmazine, referring to wonder and astonishment. It's the point from which philosophy stems from. More on that later. Don't you feel it too? You must have felt it, looking up at the night sky. Thalmazine. It's a body that thrills at the beauty of the world. And it's a mind that wishes to become closer to it. In short, it's the feeling of a question. Orb is split into 4 clear acts with 4 clear protagonists. The successor to Rafal is Oxy, whose name in Polish means eyes. And eyes, or the act of bearing witness, are an important part of the sublime. It's passive. You're not an actor. You're powerless. You're not at the center of things. Geocentrism opposes the sublime in 2 ways. The first, as discussed, is that it places us at the center. It puts a special importance on our place in the universe. And this is antithetical to the sublime. How can we feel small and powerless if the universe revolves around us? The second and most important distinction between geocentrism and the sublime is found in the first true conversation between Rafal and Hubert, in which the old man asks the boy if he finds geocentrism beautiful. The sublime, by definition, is beautiful, if not overwhelming, for it inspires appreciation. It inspires love. And Rafal and Hubert agree that geocentrism is anything but beautiful. Sure, it's relatively stabilized, but only with every celestial body having its own equation. It's messy. It's chaotic. There's no unifying force. No singular truth. No God. Shortly after watching Orb, I read this novel called When We Cease to Understand the World by Benjamin Labatut, which I'll be referring to throughout this video as the novel. It's an anthology of 5 fictional stories, each following a real-world scientist. It explores what I began this video discussing, the alien terror of unknown potential. Oxy looks away from the night sky because he is terrified, and Labatut's novel posits that to see the unseen, one must not have eyes. One must not be blinded by that which is seen. The Norse god Odin gouged out an eye for knowledge. Similarly, Oxy's companion, the monk Bedeni, had one of his eyes blinded as punishment for pursuing heliocentrism. He gazed into the abyss of the unknown, and it took something in return. For men like the mathematician Alexander Grothendieck, it was their sanity. In the novel, Grothendieck loses touch with reality as he delves into imaginary mathematics. I'm not a math guy. My degree was in English literature, pretentious chum. But I do have a fascination with mathematics, especially imaginary mathematics. The name itself is nonsensical. How can numbers be imaginary? Did we make them up? Well, no, because the math checks out. There really are numbers from beyond our dimension that coexist with our own. Are they really imaginary? Are they nonsensical? Without reason? Was Grothendieck truly losing his mind? Or perhaps, like the Allfather Odin, he was no longer blinded by the limiting visible spectrum. Most creation myths describe reality as coming from a primordial chaos. But the math says otherwise. Something cannot come from nothing. So if the mathematics of the universe speak to order, perhaps that order, that truth, always existed. Perhaps the chaos is just the unknown. I don't want to live in a world that's not beautiful, says Hubert. Reason is not opposed to faith. Faith is the belief in reason, in there being more than just chaos, in there being beauty, in there being order. Scientists are priests. Their god is truth. There's one character that connects all of our protagonists, and that is Noach, the Inquisitor, whose entire purpose is to put an end to any heretics of the Christian faith. However, you come to see how jaded he truly is. Noach isn't doing this because of some great love of his religion, but instead because the chaos terrifies him. When he confronts the imprisoned Rafal, the boy tells him, "The thing you all oppose isn't me, nor is it heretics. It's part imagination and part curiosity. In short, it's truth itself. It spreads like an epidemic. It's not the sort of harmless thing that can be tamed by an organization." Upon Rafal's reveal that he had knowingly and fatally poisoned himself, Noach lambasts the boy for committing a cardinal sin and damning himself to hell. But the boy retorts, "When we exist, death is not. And when death exists, we are not." For a scientist, Rafal is quite romantic. The Enlightenment sought to mentally conquer the world. Rafal seeks to experience it, even if it overwhelms him. He gives himself up to the pursuit of truth, even whilst knowing that a part of existence, death, is unknowable. Existence is too great, too divine for our mortal coils. And he continues to haunt Noach up until his dying moments as he lays in a burning church. I called Noach a cynic, but he loved his daughter Yolenta. In one flashback, we see him gift her a pair of gloves. Gloves too big for her. Of course, she could one day grow into them. She could one day become the woman that he knew she'd be. But he never does get to see them fit her because she's a heretic, a believer in heliocentrism, and he never discovers the truth about her. She escapes and leads an underground resistance. The adult Yolenta becomes invisible, imaginary, and Noach could never take such a leap into the unknown. To keep in theme with the novel, let's call this scenario Schrodinger's gloves. Them fitting is a case of superposition. Sure, she would probably be able to wear them as an adult woman, but we'll never know because Noach is too scared to open the box. And when Yolenta dies to keep the flame of heliocentrism burning, Noach only finds her arm and her hand, never knowing that it belonged to his daughter. He couldn't recognize her. Yolenta had become one with her god, with truth, with the imaginary. The middle chapter of A Missus to Understand the World is called Heart of Hearts. It follows the work of Alexander Grothendieck, but his story is framed around that of Shinichi Mochizuki, who considered himself Grothendieck's student. Now, Mochizuki devised a branch of math so abstract that not even the greatest in their field could validate any of his work. It was seemingly nonsensical. Mochizuki had succumbed to Grothendieck's curse, deleting his work as certain things should remain hidden for the good of us all. What the novel calls Grothendieck's curse is pivotal to understanding the conclusion of all, which has befuddled many people and brought along a great deal of discussion. The final 2 episodes follow the 4th protagonist, Albert, who, unlike the previous characters, was in fact a real historical figure. Albert Brzezowski, one of the teachers of Nicholas Copernicus, who formulated his own heliocentric model of the universe. One of the big twists of the ending is that Albert's tutor was an older Rafal who actually hadn't taken his own life, and was instead part of a secret group of truth seekers, made up of underground scientists, astronomers, and mathematicians. He even kills Albert's father for refusing to share his research. There's a zealotry to his devotion. 2 possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe, or we are not. Both are equally terrifying. There is a second Rafal, one who didn't die in the jail cell, one who went on to fall deeper into his research, into his exploration of the universe. The first Rafal was never alone. That second Rafal was always there in the dark unknown, waiting to be revealed. Or maybe they're one and the same. Is there 1 Rafal or 2? Is this really an alternate universe? We humans look for patterns. We look for the familiar in order to understand the unknown. I think the story is visualizing this with Rafal. The tutor wasn't actually Rafal. The story is just using his likeness so that we can understand it. In fact, going further than that, I don't even think there was a tutor. I don't believe his story. The story of this teacher and a secret society and his father's murder are a little too fantastical. This was a story that Albert was telling a priest in a confessional. It's, to me, akin to someone talking about themselves by referring to themselves as a friend they know. The tutor and this story as a whole is an idea. It's intangible, imaginary. Nothing more than a symbol representing Albert's fear, a symbol to help him process the chaos. Rafal haunted Noack in a burning church because Rafal had become the story's universal symbol for human potential, an intelligent boy who found something to dedicate his life to. Rafal is a symbol. All mathematics are abstract symbols that articulate some deeper truth about existence. What Albert is truly afraid of was what that potential could bring, that he could lose himself, lose his humanity. This is the dichotomy of man. What differs us from angels and animals is our potential to stray towards either. We can be divine, and we can be beasts. This imaginary tutor-student relationship is akin to Mochizuki and Grothendieck, albeit without the murder. It reminds me a lot of Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, a story about a man exploring deep into the Congo to find a lost soldier. A soldier that is no longer the same, in a state that the protagonist finds himself falling ever more towards. If you remember, I said this chapter of the novel was called Heart of Hearts. Grothendieck seemingly went insane, diving deeper and deeper in search of the basest truth of existence. Mathematics is a universal constant. It's the universal language. Grothendieck's curse is what Albert fears, the loss of one's sanity, or rather, their humanity. An earlier chapter of the novel follows the scientist Karl Schwarzschild, the first man to provide an exact solution to general relativity, something that not even Einstein could do. This solution helped us calculate the size of a black hole's event horizon. An event horizon is the point of no return, where nothing, not even light, can escape. It's the point in which the outside observer becomes completely blind to what's happening within. It's the edge of reason. When the curvature becomes infinite and our laws of physics no longer apply, whatever is within the event horizon becomes beyond the universe's reach. Human intellect reaches that point when we uncover something that we could never understand. That's the whole point of relativity. It completely changed our understanding of physics. It went beyond laws, beyond our pre-existing knowledge. But Einstein could never complete it. No, the novel posits that Schwarzschild found the solution because he was serving in the military, because he was in the trenches. Only a dying man, faced with death, with the unknowable, could see the unseeable. Scientist Fritz Haber wanted to mass-produce fertilizer, but that technology was weaponized for the very warfare that killed Schwarzschild. His research into fertilizer produced chlorine gas. His desire to make things grow, make plants grow, killed thousands, including Schwarzschild, who died of an autoimmune disease he developed on the Russian front. These innovations only come when the curvature of our laws, our societal laws, reach infinity, when they no longer apply. How much of our understanding of medicine can we attribute to the inhumane experiments conducted by the Japanese? At the edge of reason, Haber, Schwarzschild, Grothendieck, and the tutor all built temples to chaos. What I love about this novel is how, despite being an anthology, there's something connecting them. For one, it's Einstein, who knows all these men. But more importantly, what connects them is the desire to know the heart of hearts. All these men orbit the black hole that none of them can see into. It's very much like Orb, where the characters never interact, but are all orbiting the same celestial, heavenly body. Even the third protagonist, Draga, who lived to make money, gave up a metal coin for the printing press that would produce their book. Heliocentrism is her faith. It's Rafal's. It's Oxy's. This invisible tether is truth, and it's best expressed through thalmazine, the ancient Greek term for wonder. Plato and Aristotle considered it to be the foundation of philosophy. It's romantic. It's the desire to experience your world. It's a question. What else is out there? What else can I see? Did the events before Albert's section take place in an alternate dimension? Did the story that we just witnessed really happen? Well, I believe it's all canon. Both Orb and When We Cease to Understand the World fall under the unique genre of non-fiction fiction. These are all real fake stories of real fake people. It's blurring the lines between the real and the imaginary. Drakkar dies unable to pass on the book. We don't know what happens after. Only one thing remains, a note that Rafal wrote, dedicating 10% of all the profits of his research to his adoptive father, Patoki. Prophet, humanity's true god. Albert walks by as the note is being read aloud, having finally made its way to Patoki's residence. But the man has long since passed away, and Albert hears the title of the missing book read aloud, On the Movements of the Earth. That's all he needed. A question, a what if. This moment was a miracle. Everything was in its right place. The universe was operating on perfect reasoning. The movements of every character brought them to just the right place to make Albert question, what if? The manga and anime with the same title as the in-universe book wants to inspire the thalmazine in us. We see this so many times in the story, characters getting the slightest push, the most minuscule suggestion, because the desire to know was always there. It didn't require a lot of effort. The world is full of these small miracles. While not directly connected to the manga, I want to discuss the opening of the Orb anime, which I still think is relevant to Orb's theme of passing on and building on the knowledge of others. After all, this anime's creators built on the work of the mangaka. The opening visuals of Orb change whenever a new protagonist appears. This creates a total of 4 unique openings. It always begins with the protagonist opening their eyes, heliocentrism illuminating the unknown darkness and allowing them to see. The sketches of the various characters are missing from the final opening, lost to history. But there is something in the darkness that its protagonist Albert is gazing at. The sketches are still there. The characters did exist. There is truth hiding in the chaos, waiting to be illuminated. Our inability to imagine the unimaginable is reflected in the show's logo, which appears inverted in the 4th opening. Many immediately took this to suggest that the show's ending, the real world with the real historical figure, took place in an alternate dimension from the rest of the show. But that's just it. We're jumping to conclusions. We can't imagine truths that we don't know exist. In fact, when the heliocentrism model is shown, the other characters are all present in Albert's opening. They're still there. The opening's visuals are forever changing, like how the stars in the sky are forever spinning. But there are a few constants, the most important being in the chorus, Rafal in the burning church, Yolenta's gloves, and Hubert, the man who sparked the flames in Rafal. Rafal is potential. Rafal is thalmazine. Thalmazine is what unites all of the openings, all of the characters. He's the invisible force, the heart of hearts. There is a truth at the black hole of the universe. Rafal looks at the audience, at Noak, and Noak responds with the gloves, with the desire for safety and certainty. But the opening responds by continuing with its ever-changing visuals until the final moment, when Hubert looks at us and Rafal closes his hand, only for Albert to open his, holding the orb. Rafal held the truth despite it being hidden, and Albert discovered it. It was always in his hand. He just had to open it. The song is interesting because it's titled Kaiju and not something like Kyojin. The singer says that he'll become a giant monster, but Kaiju doesn't only refer to size, but to strangeness. It means strange beast. If I continue to search, I'll become something I don't understand. At the end of When We Cease to Understand the World, a mysterious character says that the only way to know how long your citrus tree has left to live is to cut it open and count the rings. But this would kill it. It's Schrodinger's box. You kill the cat when you peer inside. The cat's existence ceases to be because of you. As science and mathematics advance and further deconstruct our preconceived understandings of the world, the citrus tree stops being a tree and becomes a stump. Orb doesn't have an answer on how to balance our humanity with our advancement. It only posits the question. It's up to us to discover the answer, to learn, to inherit, to receive, to believe, to doubt, to fear. This is the essence of human history. Among the many great thinkers that Raphael cites before his death, the third saying went as follows: "Life is long if you know how to use it." This is remarkably similar to what Galileo said when he was trying to justify to the church his delvings into heliocentrism. I do not feel obligated to believe that the same God who has endowed us with senses, reason, and intellect has intended us to forego their use. It's romantic. We're given this life, and we need to live it. This video was meant to release in July. The Poppy War video was meant to release in August. I knew what I wanted to say in this video. The skeleton for this video was drafted months ago, but I couldn't do it. There was a mental block. So much has been happening in my life post-graduation that I've begun to dread everything. I became Noak. This video became something unfinished, indicative of unrealized potential. If I want to step forward, I need to overcome this hurdle. I need to finish this video, no matter what state it comes out in. And if you finished it with me, consider this my leap into the unknown. Consider it my temple to chaos.